It's recording. What up,
Oh,
Chris?
hey, good
How
evening.
how how you doing? What anything new on your end?
No,
That's
back to you
here I come.
and back to you. No, hey, I'm glad to be back. Episode two, issue
Yeah,
two, chapter two, whatever we're calling
Vol-
the sequel,
volume
volume
two.
two, volume two of
I think we just go with episodes because
yeah.
who cares?
All right, okay, all right.
Yeah,
We'll do that,
yeah.
but no, I'm good. How's everything with you?
It's been good, man. Been Valheiming it a bit.
Valheim.
Valheiming
What
doing some drawings. Do you
what is
like to see
Valheim?
my drawings? What is Valheim? I feel like that's a loaded gun.
Yeah.
Well, Valheim is just really kind of like open world sandbox to you know take up your time, build things out. You get to I don't know. You get to build a life inside of a virtual realm and get a server with all your friends and see how epic you can build shit. That's it. That's really what Valheim is. It's really, I guess, the easiest way to call it. It would be like Minecraft for the people who think Minecraft is stupid, but it's literally still Minecraft.
Yeah.
That's what I would
Well,
say.
shit. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I see a lot of people playing it. I think there's a great desperation for something new in the gaming industry. And unfortunately, as we've talked about in previous conversations, uh, the ones that have arrived recently have not transpired into something that was entertaining enough. The cyberpunks of the world that people thought this was going to be the new open world where everyone would be jumping in, and here we are, and people are still playing Grand Theft Auto online,
Yeah, it's
and that
still
it's
Grand
crazy.
Theft Auto. Yeah.
It's crazy, but that's cool. Valheim, I definitely need to check it out. It seems like it's a pretty popular game that just came out. I like the non big studio titles. It's kind of cool to see.
Well, I think what's crazy is right now is like in terms of like non big studios, like the studios that are like really blowing up are studios that basically are like not AAA titles, things that don't like I don't know. I feel like AAA titles are just spending a lot of time, right? Like Cyberpunk. What the fuck happened? How much money did Cyberpunk have? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't believe how much of a bust that was, man.
Well, I
I'm
think
I'm so I'm so upset that a game with that much hype. And I think we're probably beating a dead horse at this point, right? I think
yeah.
the expectations did not did not live up to expectations, unfortunately. But I was super stoked about it. I'm just again hoping that there is a game on the horizon that will be amazing and exciting. But again, excited to try any new titles. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Happy to jump into Valheim. Although, do I need like a Nordic beard and like Thor style to jump in, or can I just? I mean, I have a beard. I have? Is that okay? Requirement wise to get on the server, at least I have a beard.
Yeah. I mean, we'll let you on the server.
All right, cool.
It's actually Channel 86's server.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
we're hosting that thing online so people can log in and build the best world possible. Mining. We have a lot of materials people need. So jump on in, steal our shit, jump on out. But you need the password. But I think you'll like it if you get involved because we'll help you out and get you a bunch of equipment that we didn't have. So
All right, well, I'm excited.
yeah.
But you asked what's going on other than in gaming, but obviously we launched the first episode of Cool Beans TV on Channel 86. So super excited to see that. And that's an ongoing mission to create some odd, weird content for YouTube. And then we are progressing further in the variety of different projects that we talked about last week on volume one. But yeah, I think we're getting to a point now where we can start um, realizing what the game that we talked about last week in EMP, Extremely Mad Popsicles. I know you're working on the art. Like, what have you been working on art wise this
Well,
week?
so this week I've been trying to color some of the drawings that I finished. I finished the superhero one. Life kind of got in the way. Haven't really been had a chance to do it. So I've been working on coloring that one to kind of like play on like the typical superhero colors, right? And then really just figuring out if we need more, because I'm kind of like processing how the game is played and what it's like. And realistically, I think we decided we were only going to go with 20 heads, but been just messing around with some more ideas for heads of popsicles, and possible ice cream trucks. So really looking into that. You also started to kind of like send stuff my way that really got me thinking about like what if we went that direction with it. And so I was trying to figure out how I could, I don't know, possibly, let's call it storyboard, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well,
So yeah,
that's
I
what I
mean,
like to hear.
I think once we get the color down for the superhero, I believe that was our last one. Um, so we have to finish out the card design, which is kind of brings me into a topic I wanted to talk a little bit about today. Just in terms of like the development side, prior we were kind of going over everything like super fast, prior in older episodes, but now, new us, new cast. Um, when you like, because we have gone in circles, I think time and time again, just around like what card layouts should be, what that looks like. So realistically, like over everything we've talked about, when you grab a new game off of the shelf, right? You're like, oh, this is my game, like whatever. Like you pull it off. What? How? How much does it weigh on you, the layout of the card, on whether or not you're going to play it again?
That's a good question. We talked about our different art aesthetics and how we're all drawn to different art styles. And so I think there's a portion of it that's like, oh, this layout or this art style will entice me to either purchase the game or replay it. But I
Yeah.
think more than anything for me, it comes down to just how fun it is and the mechanics of the game. To me, that's
Okay.
probably like I will purchase something if the art is cool, and that's the ultimate objective is for somebody to purchase your game.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you're hoping that the game is badass enough where people want to play it and share it with their friends, word of mouth, etc. So I think that's when the mechanics of the game and how fun it is comes into play.
So when
Um,
you would
so yeah,
do you ever play? So do you ever? All right, let's take like a typical, uh, I guess like a typical role playing game, right? Like a majority of these games with different card layouts. I feel like a lot of it is kind of the same, but you have like Pokemon, right? Um,
yep.
the fucking trying to understand what's on the front of that card is like ridiculous, right? Well, I think a lot of that was all spawned by Magic, and looking at the front of that card. But when when you're thinking through a game, because with me with Unicorns and Zombies, when I was thinking it up, like I had an idea of what I wanted it to be, but I didn't want to introduce art or tell anybody what it was until you could play it without the art, and it seemed fun. Do you, when you from a creative perspective, and someone that's kind of like leaned a little bit more into the like writer side of things, right? So, do you tend to how do you approach like the gameplay, right? Like how does that work in your mind, and then how does that translate to what you feel needs to be on the front of a card?
Again, I think it's all dependent on like the game. Like is it a game that is you're trying to oversimplify it so it can be picked up and learned within 5 minutes of reading the instructions, and at that point, then from a design and creative aspect, you're trying to keep it as simple, stupid, with the least amount of words as possible. But if the intention is to create a game in which you're hoping, like say for like you mentioned like Pokemon, right? Or Magic we've referred to, or like deck
Yeah,
builders, I think you put more time into that, right? Because there's an element of like collecting that you're doing it because this particular card will help you in card combat, but also it's
right.
fucking cool card and you want to collect it or what it says or the name or the meaning. So I think it just depends on the style of game that you're creating, to be honest with you. In Extremely Mad Popsicles, I think the most important thing that we talked about was making it super simple, easy to play, super playable, pretty much all ages, and that the art would be cool enough for people like this is great and buy it,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But when we talk about Mythic Mayhem, there's a lot more involvement in that because that's like a deck builder. That's like long term project in which we foresee could be years and years of expansions. So it's all
Yeah.
dependent on that,
Well,
at
and
least
I
in my
think too.
opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I think too. In talking a little bit, just cause so we can speak around things that we're actually doing. Like in speaking about like extremely mad popsicles and kind of the direction we're going with that. I think we talked about like keeping the art on the popsicle cards, and that's really it, right? So the majority of the cards in the deck are actually like, I mean, they're color coded. There's like a bar of color on the side, but realistically, outside of like maybe a symbol so you know what kind of card it is, the color, there's really just text. You have ability cards; those are a symbol, things like that, right? So like, but we chose that like because of the style of game that this is and has potential to be, and also developing like further down the road. We decided that okay, cool. The art focus should be on the popsicle heads instead of like like an equipment card, right? We didn't want to draw everything out because it was like, nah, I mean, you're really just reading the card at this point. You don't really need to draw everything out in this game because I don't feel like it's that type of game.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. I think the focus is on the popsicle heads because one of the things we decided is we're creating a game that has marketing potential, from toys to enamel pins to animation. So you really have to concentrate your efforts on like the core characters because you're looking to potentially e- uh, involve them in some other future projects, right?
Yeah.
Like look at the other card games out there that are like humorous or fun. Some of the most popular ones. Um, Bears versus Babies, like or Unstable Unicorns, or some of these. Are there any memorable characters from those
Yeah.
games?
No,
I
there's not.
mean, not really, right? There's like
No.
nothing that we're hoping that there is in this particular game. Like if it's
Yeah.
like, oh, the zombie popsicle, or that's the intention because we're building out future projects off of this game, which is
Right.
interesting because typically you don't start with a board game as the foundation for creating other avenues of you know creative uh creative thinking. It's usually like a game is made up of something larger. So it's a rarity. Like name a board game
Yeah.
that started as a board game and then was marketing into another animation. Like you have to go back to like what fucking Canyonland or Monopoly or
Yeah.
Life.
What?
Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Like it's in the thing that's crazy is I guess the poorest attempt at doing what you're talking about would be when Hasbro signed all their licensing deals and they decided to create the movie Battleship. Did you ever
Yeah.
watch that? Did you ever watch that trash heap?
No, but I was in Walmart one day and they had a $2 DVD bin and I did see Battleship in there.
Bro, that
So
like that it was like the worst movie I'd ever seen. It's like Michael Bay needed a side project or something. I don't even know if he actually did the project. But
I don't
like
know.
but what happened, he like oof, man, he the only reference to the game was their ship got hit with a fucking EMP, right? And so all the
Hmm.
electronics went out. So they're like, we're going analog. And so they turn on all the analog shit on the ship. And then they literally make reference to it by like B13. And then they say something. And I was like, wow, you wrote the whole movie around that line because otherwise people would be like, I don't understand what this has to do with the board game. But Hasbro signed a big
Did
ass
they
deal for all
when
their
they
board
got hit
games.
when they got hit? Did they put pegs in the holes on the command center?
It was like a little bit. I don't know if they did. They might as well have.
Yeah.
So stupid.
Well,
But they
I'm
but
super
they
I'm
signed
super
they
stoked
signed a
because
bunch of deals.
did they? Well, yeah, I saw that on Netflix the series coming out and Milton Bradley presents Connect Four the series, so I'm super stoked
That's
about
not a
that.
thing. Are you
Uh,
serious?
no,
Yeah.
but you
Okay.
see, you were ready to watch it. You were fucking
No, I was
ready.
I was ready
Like,
to fucking shut off the camera and be like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, because there's
yeah,
no way they could do Connect Four, man.
I don't know, man.
Uh,
I know that Amazon Prime's got Scrabble, the motion picture, so super stoked
yeah,
about that.
they got.
Uno
Mhm.
premiering on
Uno's
yeah,
a
it's
Uno's a Hulu exclusive.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And
Who
then
was
and
in
then
Battleship, by the way? Who's the star of that fucking show or the movie?
I
Do you
don't fucking
remember?
know.
All right, I
No,
gotta search that real quick.
dude, the only thing that I'm excited about, by the way, about the Hasbro deal, which no one is talking about, and it's bothering me. Do you remember the cartoon from the 80s and 90s Mask?
Yes.
So they signed a movie deal for that, but no one's talking about it.
Huh.
It's one of my
That's
favorite
weird.
cartoons of all time because it was
You
like,
know what? That that reminds me of like Mask, like GI Joe.
mhm,
They didn't do it completely right, but those movies weren't the first one wasn't that bad.
for GI Joe.
It wasn't it wasn't great, but it
Yeah,
wasn't like a disaster. They could have made that better too.
could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think like we've talked about this too, like in terms of like development and things that we do during our downtime or when we're bored. Uh, Title shout out, uh, but we talked about this, which is like what is the avenues of our of our creativity and what we're trying to do with it, and I think that there is something to create like it's kind of interesting because you hear people talk about, oh, that makes such a fun game to play, right? And we're seeing a lot of this happen. Like Steam Forged actually got the licensing to do Resident Evil 2 board game, right? And Resident Evil bought it on Kickstarter, super expensive. Bought Resident Evil 3 on Kickstarter, super expensive, right? So there's all these things that people were like, that'd be a cool like game. And with the way that everything's going and just how everyone's kind of getting back into the old timey ways of being able to connect with friends and family and kind of go that route. Our goal is to have at least one of our game on everyone's table in the US. Right? You gotta start small. So like that's always been our goals. Like how do we get our game onto everyone's tabletop within the US, right? Or how do we support that? How do we encourage that? How do we get it on there, right? And it may not be unicorns and zombies, but it could be Extreme Mad Popsicles. It may not be Extreme Mad Popsicles. It could be Mythic Mayhem. Could be like the thing goes on and on. But with that, the concept is like, well, I mean, at this fucking point, if we're going to do that, then we have to focus on the style of, could this be a comic? Could this be a pin? Could this be, you know, an animation? Could this be something like, what does that look like? Could you license the concept of the game to like Marvel or DC or somebody to throw their characters on your game? So Extremely Mad Popsicles becomes like heroes versus villains or whatever it is, right? So and I think that like that's just, it's not, I wouldn't say that because we're thinking that way we're running ourselves short. I would say that the main focus of our creative energy is put into creating a badass board game with the realization that this could happen, so let's be fucking ready.
Yep. Yep.
You know?
Yep. 100%.
Because I think a lot of times people just aren't ready for that, right? You get the call, right? Someone's like, "Hey, we're interested in this," and you're like, "Oh, I never thought about that." And then you spend so much time focusing on the board game that it's like really hard to translate into something else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, unless you spent days and months and years writing the lore of your fucking whatever it is, it's gonna be very difficult to like build that up, right? Which is something Magic did very well, but Magic the Gathering also started out as like a college project, so you know.
Yeah. Do you remember, is it like, obviously you've been heavily involved in just all things like board games for a long time. And we can probably talk about like the first games that you remember playing, but like outside of like reading about things or like friends telling you, do you ever recall like going to like a convention or someone's house or comic book shop or and seeing a game actively being played that enticed you to want to buy it?
Nope.
Isn't that
No.
weird?
Well, because people. So this is the fucking problem, and this is why I'm glad we started this back up, because we need to be on the record for understanding this. People talk a lot about esports, and esports is massive, right? You can't deny that shit. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. But like, there are some board games out there that would fucking trump like esports from the amount of like knowledge and like smarts you have to play these fucking games. And the only reason why people don't know about these, like Warhammer or fucking, I mean, whatever else you want to, like, there's tabletop games that people roll up in like $1,000 Craftsman toolboxes and then open that shit up. And inside there's like $1,000 pieces that they put on these like epic tables, right? The problem with the board game industry is that people look at it like a pastime, and I'm like, no, this is like your full time, right? Like board games should not be looked at as a pastime. They shouldn't. They're not. But the days of like fucking Parker Brothers being the only people that can make board games is completely fucking gone, right? We see this like Gloomhaven or Frosthaven, right, on Kickstarter made like $13.5 million. So like it's not the days of like going to the store and being like, let's buy Sorry or Clue or fucking whatever, right? Scrabble, Monopoly. Like, these games are cool. They're what have spawned a lot of us to want to create games. But there is going to be a point in time when people understand the complexity of board games and the fact that like watching a board game played properly with the proper setup, everything's like set up, everything looks good, it's lit well, and listening to that and having like commentary, that's a real thing that's going to happen. I guarantee you it's going to happen, because it's like the advantage that you have with like esports is that you have interaction, right? So people are really coming to watch a fucking computer gameplay. They don't really give a shit about the players, but the players have all the talent, right? Because they're the ones that are telling the games what to do. But if you look at like Call of Duty League and all that stuff, the people that are going to these leagues or watching them online or whatever, like, they're just watching the fucking game. It's like League of Legends sells out the Staples Center in 5 seconds, right? Like, that's a real fucking thing. But they're selling it out to like play this game. Well, the same shit, like, theoretically could happen with board games if it was done properly, speaking to what you're talking about, which is like, if you went to a convention, right, and you had all of these things happening and people like playing the game, and it's a big reason why we pulled out of like LA Comic Con again this year, is because it's like you can't have a board game at a convention if people are too afraid to get close to you and touch things. It doesn't work, right? Like you would get more out of your money having a virtual con somewhere so people could play it and then shipping them the physical version than you would like if we were to go do LA Comic Con again this year. We'd spend all this money. We'd have a booth. No one could fucking walk in it. Everyone would be too scared to get close to each other. You couldn't play the fucking game. We'd have to wait. It's like you're not going to want to come into my booth. So there's literally zero fucking reason for us to have a booth, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I do think over time, I do think we'll get back to the point where you can have that, and I just think that what is going to happen is everyone's going to realize like, yo, if your building capacity is like 25,000 people, don't sell 25,600 tickets, sell 24,000, right? Like because what has happened with the convention scene in general is that it's become overpopulated Hollywood bullshit stuff where now you've lost track of like all of the really badass indie people, which are what we thrive on, right? And I just think that people need to have, and this sounds stupid and it's totally nerdy and I'm fucking fine with it. I'll own it. But the level of respect that's come from like board games is just slowly starting to get to the point. And you do have some people who create board games that are okay, but they just don't give a fuck. And then you have people who are super passionate about it, that don't have money, that are trying to like do what they can, right? So I think it's over time we'll see a major shift. Like I would love to like if you watch I don't know if you've ever watched like a stream on Twitch or anything where they're doing like Dungeons and Dragons, and it's kind of funny as
Yeah.
shit. You know what I mean? Like it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny to hear the dungeon master fucking talking, and someone says something, you can see their eyes light up because you know he's gonna fuck that person over because they said something stupid, right? Like that's funny to watch, right? There's another game called Fiasco which I would love to watch, and they do it over on another YouTube channel. But Fiasco is a great game to watch people talk out because it's creative. It's like being in drama class and having to do like improv, right? That's what Fiasco is. But it's
Yeah.
scene based.
Well, I think you're onto something because I think things are going to change in the future. We hope that this whole pandemic gets to a point where people feel more safe to be able to gather, etc., across the entire world. And
Yeah.
what that will do is the gaming industry will just still continue to be popular. Esports will still continue to be popular. But what will gradually shift is that people will try to seek different ways to get together with people socially in a way they haven't done before on a regular basis. And it no longer will it be I want to sit behind my three screens at home and play games online virtually for friends across the country 7 days a week. I still excited about that, but on Wednesdays, I want to go hang out and play fucking Dungeons and Dragons with 5 or 6 people in a garage somewhere. Or I want to play the next game from Cardboard Monster Studios, or I want to play fucking Monopoly, whatever it is. And I think that will change, and with it may come what you're talking about, bringing like what esports is and kind of board games, if you will. People will get more excited about it.
Or Major
And
League board games, right?
yeah, which
Oh,
not to give anything away, but
uh,
you never know.
you never know about MLBG.TV.
Yeah, or Board Game Mafia.
You don't know about any of these. You know, you just never know.
Yeah.
Or Unibot. You know,
Yeah.
you don't know. You don't know about these.
Well, when we talked about Unibot last week, it's an artist collective, and one of the major focuses, as we shared, was supporting independent gamers across the globe to provide resources to build a community.
Yep.
What we didn't make exclusive is what kind of gamers, and that could be tabletop gamers.
Yep.
That is a huge distinction. Is that Unibot does not include, but we include all types of creative people who build, who play, who create, and I think tabletop is going to be a big part of Unibot in the foreseeable future.
Absolutely
So
agree with
super
that.
stoked about that.
Yeah,
Yep.
100%. I think
So
that yeah, there's a market out there. There are uh, underdeveloped markets, I should say, um, and being the alpha of the industry is pretty badass. I give people a lot of credit for the hard work they do putting into it, but because of that, you have all these like super like hungry like Pepsi trying to sling fucking game fuel everywhere they can, except for like fuck the guy who only has like 20 people watching his stream. That's no, that's not going to be like profitable. Where we're with Unibot, it's like no, that's actually has a tendency to be even more profitable because if that dude gets sponsored, has this like gets stoked because he or she is sponsored. It's the first time they've ever been sponsored. Now they're like word of mouth, right? And a lot of what's happening in all of these industries is that it's starting the so-called food pyramid is starting to like flip where it's like the smaller people are actually starting to take over, which is great to see because people want something different and we want to support that different, right?
yeah, yep. I couldn't agree
So
more.
yeah, I think I think as we go, I'm interested to see what does happen with extremely mad popsicles. We're spending a lot of time on it, and I think it's a pretty unique game in terms of like I don't really know of too many games that play the same way this does. Maybe they're out there. I've played a lot of tabletop games, but I haven't really come across it. But we have a secret formula, I would say, that I'm not gonna talk about. But as we're as we're developing games and working on it, I do have a very like specific thing that I try to accomplish when developing like rules for a game, which I think is what makes them replayable. And so, I don't know if that'll ever come out, and if you figure it out, awesome. But I wrote it on a napkin and put it in a safe, and I don't remember the combo. Let alone do I remember where the safe is.
Well, we're in trouble.
Did I ever tell you, by the way, if I die, I already have like I have like a, um, I have a plan for who takes over unicorns and zombies.
Oh
So,
shit.
so I'm gonna name two people, and no one knows who it is, but I'm telling everyone that's involved, including you. And I think this is the first time I've ever told you this, but there will be two people listed that have the ability to take over unicorns and zombies and like the whole LLC and things that I've created. But the only way that you actually get to take it over is it's the winner of a fencing contest. Olympic rules.
Got it. I thought it was gonna be some like Ready Player One shit where we had to like get three fucking keys and go through your mind and but a fencing contest is super fucking easy, so I was
Well,
expecting a hell of a lot more.
yeah.
I thought there's gonna be some like fucking, you know,
you
backstory
seem
and
you seem uh, you seem pretty cocky there. You planning
yeah,
already?
yeah. Yeah, I mean I thought there was gonna be like VR involved and
There
all
could there
kinds of
could
shit.
be.
So
I could
yeah,
change it at any point in time. But it's literally the
yeah.
only thing I've ever filled out just in case anything ever happened to me. It's already out there.
Speaking of VR, what happened to VR? Is this still a thing? People still
Uh,
playing that?
Oculus 2 came out and everyone uses it for big screen movie watching with their friends.
Okay. I thought that was going to be like the next big thing.
Yeah, it's
Is
big.
it not? Is
It's big screen movie watching with your friends. Buy the Oculus for $299 so you can watch Netflix with your friends in VR.
wow.
It puts you in like
I'm trying to think.
it puts you in like a
Is VR?
theater.
Really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I guess if you want to pay
Do you
three
remember?
hundred dollars,
You remember 3D TVs? Remember
I have one
3D
still.
HD TVs?
I still have one. When I
I
worked
thought
at
that
Apple,
was like the big thing.
when I worked at Apple, do you remember the iCloud? The iCloud that when iCloud first came out, they had the TVs in the
Yeah.
windows. So they had an auction, and I won that auction for that TV that was in the cloud. And that motherfucking TV still works to this day, and it's
Man.
3D. And I've never once used the 3D on it because it hurts your eyes.
But how do you watch 3D? Has to be a Blu-ray enabled 3D?
Yeah, it's like Blu-ray enabled 3Ds, which they don't make anymore, and then you have to have the glasses.
What a failed venture.
Well, dude, Family Guy is the one that fucking made fun of that shit. You remember that? I think it was either
No.
Family Guy. No, was it? It might have been Simpsons, where it was like when 2K first came out, and then they were like talking about 4K TV, and then I think it was the Simpsons. It was like, oh, I ordered an 8K TV and whatever, and it was just like making fun of people. The only reason why I have to buy a new TV when I move is because mine actually took a shit. Like, it is actually bad. I can't get it fixed. It's
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, well, I don't have to pack that and move it. But the one that I bought, or the one that I won from Apple, still works.
Hmm.
But the
Interesting.
other one doesn't. But it's like a
Yeah.
7-year-old Vizio. I just don't understand the need for 4K TVs. I feel like that's obsessive when your eye can't tell past a certain level, anyways. People come
Yeah.
in and watch. People come in and watch. Here's the problem with high def TVs, and this has nothing to do with development, but I don't give a shit. I'm gonna talk about it. Here's the problem with high def TVs. People don't sit down and spend the time to color calibrate their fucking TV. So no matter how much you spend on the TV, it looks like garbage. It's just that the more you spend on a TV, the more it's pre-calibrated. But then when you get it into your room and it has different lighting than what they calibrated it with, your TV looks like shit anyways. I still have people that come over and look at the TV that just went out, and they were like, oh, is this 4K? And I was like, that motherfucker is 1080p and it's like 7 years old. So no, it's not 4K. Like, no, I swear this is 4K. It's like, well, your eyes can't tell. Trust me. Like, the only difference between 4K and a non 4K TV is that you just look like you're behind the camera, and it ruins every fucking movie you watch. You lose the cinematic feel. You know?
Well, I think 3D tabletop is going to be the next big
Awesome.
thing.
Yeah, well, I think I don't know if Tabletop Simulator on Steam actually has VR support.
Hmm. Interesting. I
And you
just
can
don't
create.
know. I don't know anybody that has VR, and I haven't heard too much about it. I know it still exists, but this,
Yeah,
5 years ago, it was supposed to be like this big thing that would dominate the gaming industry, and I haven't seen that happen.
yeah, and then you had Microsoft with their HoloLens that failed, or
Yeah,
HoloLens.
yeah.
The porn industry picked
So
up on it pretty fast.
yeah, I yeah, I can see how that see how that comes into play
Yeah,
for sure.
pun intended there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So board games.
So I think what would be amazing for us to get to a point to share with all of you who are listening or viewing is these 2 episodes now that we've talked about this freaking game, Extremely Mad Popsicles. And I think next week what we want to do is we actually want to like show you um, in detail some of the art and some of the behind the scenes efforts in order for us to create and where we're at today. I think it'd be kind of cool to take you through 15 minutes of where it started again and where we are in terms of art and design.
Yep.
I think that would be kind of really cool to be able to show that on the next cast.
Yeah, and I think too what we'll do in that cast is we'll also kind of go over the tools we use to kind of do all this like remotely. Because we were meeting up on a regular cadence, but now with me moving and just haven't been able to hang out at all really, we had to adapt and figure it out. And I think that we did an absolutely fantastic job at it. um, So I'd love to get into, because what I feel happened, and why I think it's a good idea is that what I know happens, at least for me as like a new person trying to figure out how to develop games. There's so many tools out there that everyone says you should use. When the reality comes down to like, you only need like three things, and I think that we'll get into that next week, and we'll talk about like what those three things are, three, four maybe, because as a creative trying to define a strategic game and start thinking through the business process of it, you'll go down the rabbit hole on like, should I use Slack? Should I use Monday? Should I use this? Should I use that? And it's just like, well, you could. It just takes away a lot of work from the creative side, right? So yeah,
Yep.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the next episode to get in and show that off.
Before we adjourn, a big question
Yep.
for you.
Oh,
Huge question.
huge! It's huge.
Huge. Favorite tabletop game of all time? You're going to a desert island. You can only bring one game in the history of games with you. What is it? I mean, you're bringing Magic, dude. Who are you fooling?
You're correct. Well, no, I'm by myself.
Well, I didn't make. Okay, so is Magic? Let's say just in general you're bringing Magic, but if by yourself, like what the hell are you bringing by yourself? Solitaire, deck of cards?
Yeah.
I mean,
honestly,
not too many tabletop games you play. Yeah. Okay. All right, Magic.
Yeah, but yeah, it's my default answer is probably gonna always be Magic.
Okay.
But I mean, like,
Do you think
what?
Do you think Magic has changed since it's moved to predominantly online, and now with the pandemic, even more so? Do you think it's changed the game a bit?
It has. I don't think Wizards of the Coast should charge so fucking much for digital assets. And the part that bothers me about this, and maybe it's changed, it's a big reason why I stopped playing. I'll probably get back into playing Arena, but the biggest problem I had with Arena is I can't, like, if I'm playing paper Magic, like you and I could meet up, and my favorite version of Magic is EDH, or for other people, Commander. But let's just call it EDH or whatever. But that's my favorite version of Magic, because you can use every card in your collection, have one of a kind, 100 card deck, right? The only thing that could be the same is lands, and only basic lands, right? So that version of Magic is awesome. But when you get into like this rotational Magic bullshit, like standard and modern, stuff like that, like the issue is that the shit rotates out so goddamn fast that it's literally being built for competitive play. And that's my fucking problem. Is if you want to get good at competitive play, like, here's the deal, like, you have to understand the concept of it and what your deck is actually supposed to do. And then it just becomes a point of who has the most fucking money that can get the most cards. And the more expensive the cards are, the better they are. And in some cases, sometimes Magic releases a set where like a common is better than any mythic out there. But the reality is like, when you're building decks, you typically paper can go, I need these cards, and these cards. But when I'm building a deck in Magic Arena, you can't fucking do that. You just have to buy packs and just open them up and then hope to Christ that you get them. And it's like, oh, well, they have wild cards, Jason, and this and that. It's like, I don't fucking give a shit about wild cards. Like, I also can't just buy more wild cards of the rarity that I want to buy so I can turn these cards into these cards. Like, and it just becomes like, I'm buying the paper versions, then I'm buying the arena cards, and they slowly started, like, if you buy the commander packs and stuff, like, they started giving you codes to unlock that pack in arena. But you buy all this shit in arena and then you can't use the cards anymore. And I know that they're releasing more and more updates to it, and they're bringing in different ones, but they had all this shit in Magic the Gathering Online. So why the fuck it's not put into like Arena blows my mind, especially knowing that Arena is built off of fucking Unity, and you can find a Unity developer faster than you can find anything else. And I just don't understand why they're not building that in. Like, that's one of the cool things about Magic the Gathering Online is the card community. I can buy your Magic the Gathering Online cards. You send me the files, and you can. There's like a whole like ecosystem to buy and sell and trade and do all that shit in Magic Online. Get to Arena and it's like, nope, you got to buy a pack that's going to open up and not give you shit. And so
Right.
I think that the whole concept of it has changed, and I think they'll slowly adjust it. One of the things that they did start doing that was cool was Friday Night Magic because you couldn't go to like a comic shop. They started doing that on Arena. Like if you signed in between X hours, like you would get certain shit for free because you were playing basically at your local comic shop. So they've done a bunch of cool shit, but man, like I just want to play around with a fucking black green deck from 97, 95, and in order for me to get that deck, if I wasn't dumb and had thrown away my cards, in order for me to get that deck, it's just so much goddamn money now. But to
Yeah.
play, like, it's almost like I want to play people proxy, right? So just getting the cards and printing them out and playing them with that way. Because dude,
Hmm.
it's so much fun. The cards are so fucking overpowered. Like it's just a lot of fun, and I think it's just changed and it's become more of a we want to take out Hearthstone, we want to fucking take out like all these like League of Legends card games, Runeterra or whatever it's called, and like so I think that they're leaning heavily on the league play, and they've kind of in theory have gotten rid of the casual player by doing the rotation so much.
Yeah. Well, that's sad, and that I think that's a lesson for us is if we ever get to a point, we're not saying we'll ever get to a Magic the Gathering point, but if we ever get to a point where any of our games are out there, um, our deck build idea, that we don't forget about like the core reason why we created it is that everyone has an opportunity to play and to collect, and sure, there are going to be occasions where you spend some money to get stuff, but we hope we create a game that's equal and fair and doesn't lose track or focus on the core player for the purposes of supporting like pro players or people with a shitload of money. And I think
Yeah.
that to me is the most important thing.
Yeah, man, I agree. I guess to wrap it up, what's the board game you would bring or card game?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think definitely I was never as involved in Magic as you ever were, but that would be one that just like defining epic game from like tabletop. But I think does Dungeons and Dragons count because that's fucking pretty epic,
I
and
think yeah.
like there's something about Dungeons and Dragons lore and the flexibility, the agility of the game, and just the coolness of it that I
Yeah.
love that it's being brought back and super popular. But I think that's probably that would be the game that I would bring.
Yeah, that's a good one. You'd be able to act it
Yep.
out with yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Like fucking Castaway. Be me and Wilson fucking playing Dungeons and Dragons, talking to a volleyball in a
Nailing
cave.
it. Yeah, you'd win every
Yep.
time.
Every time.
Every
So
time you'd win. Nonstop.
yep. Record. Awesome. Well, I'm excited next week to jump into more of the back end stuff that we've been working on. But it was awesome to catch up this week and looking forward to next. But time to grind, time to hustle it out, and continue to update everyone listening on the shit we got going on. But we're super stoked to bring you a regular cadence of casts, and we appreciate you listening. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share,
Yeah.
help our views and help the cast grow. And let us know if you want us to talk about anything outside of what we like to do, which is talk about whatever the fuck we want. But
Yeah.
if there's something, any topics, we're happy to listen.
Yeah, and if you're a board game creator and you want to get on here, let us know. We'll bring you on. We'll chat for as long as you want. You could be an artist, you could be a designer, whatever it is. But remember, when you're bored, you need to develop, and that is the whole concept of board games. So until next time, peeps, we'll see you later.